The story begins in the world called the First Period, a place with technology about equal to ours. There's this guy named Barisol. Behimo's really smart, but people hate him cause he likes to wear makeup and dresses, even his parents. He eventually becomes a biologist. The denizens of the First Period decide to create a virtual world called the Second Period, which is essentially an actual universe. Behimo gets a spot on the production team and creates a female version of himself, names her Levia, and inserts her into the program. The tech of the Second Period is way more advanced, to the point where scientists discover that they're in a parallel world. Levia Barisol is born to a woman named Rahab, and without the stigma Behimo faced, she's rapidly accepted as a child genius. Levia becomes a psychologist and starts treating patients affected with a mysterious disease called HERS. Quick terminology pause. HERS is short for Hereditary Evil Razor Syndrome. It was created by the First Period to shut down the Second Period cause they were starting to get scared at its development, but the disease quickly got out of hand. This disease shows up throughout the whole story. It basically turns infected people into psychopaths and makes people want to kill, destroy countries, and just cause havoc in general. At first, it can be caught like a cold or flu, but eventually becomes a genetic disease. Basically, every antagonist is a HER. HERS becomes a massive issue in both periods. The Second Period, however, comes up with an evacuation plan for 72 people. Levia contracts HERS and starts to experience the symptoms, but she lives in denial for a bit. She asks her colleague Seth Twiright how to fix the issue. Seth Twiright is a HER, and remember that name causes Kerr is to blame for literally everything. Seth is a studier of parallel worlds, and he tells Levia to go to the First Period and kill Behimo to make the HERS go away so he can steal her spot on the evacuation plan. Somehow, Levia believes this.
Okay, I believe you.
Back in the First Period, Behimo is not having a good time. He gets rejected by his wife and called disgusting for trying to borrow her clothes, and essentially hits his peak tolerance for toxic heteronormativity. It's heavily implied he killed her, which sounds bad now but we haven't even started yet. It gets worse. Levia finds Behimo in the aftermath and tries to kill him, but before she does, she realizes the truth of Seth's plan. Behimo comes with Levia to the Second Period, escaping all consequences for his wife's murder and gets a seat on the evacuation plan. Levia passes him off as her twin brother and Rahab. She just goes along with it. She vibing honestly. 72 people depart on the Kleinwan, the spaceship they're leaving on. Seth sneaks on board by murdering somebody and taking over the mind of a guy named Lich Arklow. With his forced help, Seth kills almost everybody on the Kleinwan, including Lich's younger brother Michael. Eventually, Lich kills himself to stop Seth, but not before Seth contaminates the new humans with the possibility to develop HERS. All the plot-relevant characters are perfectly fine, of course. At this point, Seth, Levia, and possibly Behimo are HERS. Great start. At Behimo's suggestion, they travel back to the First Period, which is now completely destroyed. With the addition of Second Period technology, all these people are effectively gods now. The Second Period denizens use their tech to terraform the place. Behimo creates human bodies and Levia creates human souls. At some point, Levia creates the hellish yard and Behimo creates the heavenly yard. Once the work is finished, the survivors argue whether or not they should take credit for it. Heldigdr and Luna Hazuki vote firmly for a policy of non-involvement, while everyone else disagrees. This escalates into an outright battle, in which despite being outnumbered, Held and Luna somehow win. Levia and Behimo are sealed in the Klein-1 with the other 6 people, and the Klein-1 crashes to the ground. Afterwards, Luna goes to the heavenly yard and Held becomes a giant tree in a big forest. The spirit data of all the people on the Kleinwan was saved, and they are reincarnated as forest spirits in Held's forest. The ground world is now called the Third Period, and this is where most of the story takes place. About 500 years later, countries are a thing now. The kingdom of Levianta is located on the ground above the Kleinwan, and they worship Levia and Behimo, known as the twin dragon gods. Levia and Behimo now have HERS. The kingdom is a theocracy and a republic, being mostly ruled by the Senate until the Queen has a prediction. The Queen is also the High Priestess, known as the Queen of the Glass or Alice Merry-Go-Round. There have been 6 Alice Merry-Go-Rounds at this point, and succession is not hereditary. An orphan named Maria Moonlit is struck by lightning and gains the ability to hear Levia and Behimo speak. They convince Maria that they're her real parents. Eventually, Maria becomes the 7th Alice Merry-Go-Round. At some point, Maria becomes pregnant and gives birth to twins named Adam and Eve. Because they didn't have a biological father, the Senate took them away. Adam is given to the custody of the science department and Eve is dropped in a river, presumed dead. Many years later, Maria receives a prophecy from Levia and Behimo. They will be reincarnated as humans, or they will destroy the country. The Senate immediately takes action, searching for the most powerful magic user to birth the twins of God. The woman who is selected will become the new queen, and shall be known as a Memolive. The project is led by Adam Moonlit, with his assistant and guardian Seth Twiright. Yep, this occurs back, what did I say? At some point, Adam travels to the village of Nemu searching for the Witch of Nemu, a rumored sorceress who would be a prime candidate for Project Ma. A woman named Eve Zvezda saves his life. After an organization of infected HERS called Apocalypse attacks Nemu and kills her adoptive father, Eve agrees to return to Levianta, becoming the first Project Ma candidate. At some point, Eve carries out a scheme to capture the high-ranking Apocalypse member Metasam Holfer, and she is imprisoned. Coincidentally, Meta was the person leading the attack on Nemu. Meta Samholfer is an orphan who joined Apocalypse because she fell in love with the leader, Pale Noel. She'll be important in a moment. Adam's plan is to use the project to gain control of the country. To that end, he poisons Eve with a brainwashing drug called Venom to hypnotize her into falling in love with him. And yes, I'll confirm, they are in fact, fraternal twins. They never become aware of this. Seth knows. Seth watches this go down. He doesn't do a thing. Adam also inserts his DNA into the embryos of the twins of God to strengthen his claim to the throne. Because of that, Cain and Abel are stillborn. Eve's mind completely shatters. Adam realizes he's been a jerk and takes Eve to Hell's Forest to try to make her happy. With Adam gone, Seth is now in control of the project and each set of the twins of God is now infected with hers. At some point, Seth infects 7 objects with hers, which is apparently possible despite them not being organic. These objects become the vessels of sin, and they'll show up later. Seth suggests using the captured Meta as the second Project Ma candidate. Meta will not become the queen, but she'll be given a large number of rewards and will escape her execution sentence. Once her twins are born, Meta remembers that she and Pale are actually ghoul children. Quick terminology pause. Ghoul children are fake humans created by Seth's Twirite. All the twins of God are created in this way and all ghoul children are infected with hers. Now that Meta knows this, she decides she doesn't want her children to become tools of the Senate or to live a loveless life like she had. Meta takes her children and flees to Hell's Forest, while Pale creates a distraction for her. Meta routinely goes on walks with the twins on moonlit nights, but one particular night goes terribly wrong. Eve also happens to be taking a stroll, and she finds the twins. With her mental state so fragile as it is, she perceives them as red fruits given to her by God and Meta as a bear. She kidnaps the twins and runs with Meta chasing behind her. Arriving at home, Eve shows the fruits to Adam only to be told that they're infants. Her delusion collapses, and Adam opens the front door to see Meta's corpse. With her dead, Adam and Eve decide to raise the twins, Hansel and Gretel. Good sign, that. About 13 years later, all Project Ma attempts since Meta have been failures. 4 women are selected as candidates for the 7th Project Ma, and the Senate decides to choose the final candidate through even closer scrutiny. Before they can, the candidates start dying. The noblewoman Lily falls off a cliff and the prostitute Milky Yates is found hanging from a tree. The final candidates are Irina Clockworker and Aluka Chirkluda, sisters-in-law. Irina tells Aluka that she's going to give the project to her, and the two share a hug before Irina literally stabs her in the back. It turns out that Irina had been the one to kill every single candidate. In case you're wondering, Irina is a ghoul child, which means she's also a her. With literally no other option, Irina is selected as the candidate for the 7th Project Ma, and will become queen upon successful completion. However, her brother Kirill doesn't vibe with this. His fiancé is dead and his sister became a murderer, so he's naturally very upset. Kirill is also a ghoul child, and is actually the forcefully reincarnated Pale Noel after Seth caught him. So when Aluka starts whispering in his ear telling him how to bring her back to life, he's very receptive to the idea. The voice is actually Levia. Despite the 7th Project Ma being almost done, Levia and Behemo have decided they're bored now. Levia brings Kirill to the Kleinman and has him activate the black box inside. Quick terminology pause. Black boxes are a big thing in Evillious. They're kind of physical cheat codes, and each one has a different ability and different names. I won't bother with the names, but I'll explain the abilities when they show up. This particular black box is capable of resurrecting the dead. Kirill uses it to resurrect Aluka, and Levia and Behemo use it to possess Aluka's body. The box then immediately explodes, destroying the entirety of Levianta and fulfilling the prophecy the twin dragon gods gave 13 years before. Aluka is unharmed, but Levia is shoved to the forefront of consciousness while Behemo is forced into sleep. This is because of one of the laws of reincarnation made by the gods before the world was created that only one soul can reside in a body. Levia also loses her memories, and believes herself to be Aluka. Aluka wakes up after the explosion and is completely devastated. Believing both Kirill and Irina to be dead, she travels to Hell's Forest. Coincidentally, they're some of the few survivors. Kirill spends the rest of his time in the ruins of Levianta making black boxes until he's abducted by Sickle, who uses Kirill's skills for his own ends. Sickle is a robot created by Luna Hazuki. And he's just kinda there. He takes the form of a bat and he stalks people all the time and... yeah, he's just kinda there. Irina barely survives, but she's dying and she miscarried the twins. Seth, also dying, finds Irina and offers to move her soul into a cat plushie with a black box in it. He made the cat thing back when he was giving random knickknacks genetic diseases, as you do. Irina agrees, but once the procedure is done she doesn't know what to do with her life now. Seth leaves her to her own devices and dies. About a year later, the nearby country of Hildegard is in the middle of a famine. The destruction of Levianta was completely unexpected and disrupted the supply chain completely. Adam and Eve, really feeling the stretch and already rather poor, decide to abandon Hansel and Gretel deeper in the forest. Hansel captures Moonlight in his precious glass bottle, and they use the light to wander back home. Just before they return, Gretel has some sort of epiphany. Maybe it's from Levia, I'm not sure, but it's supernatural in nature, and somehow she knows exactly what Eve did to Meta. With this knowledge, Hansel and Gretel burst in and kill Adam and Eve. Upon Eve's death, her original sin is released. Hansel and Gretel use their abilities to split the sin into 7 parts and pray they'll be purified someday. Quick terminology pause. At this point, there are 2 sets of twins of God running around. I didn't mention the others cause they honestly aren't super important yet. Their descendants are. Regardless, these twins are a sort of demigod called Irregulars. Irregulars are capable of using a rebirthday spell, and this spell has a variety of uses. Hansel and Gretel used it to create the 7 sins, but it's got a lot more variety and it'll come back. Irregulars are also capable of reincarnation, and this happens a few times. Irina sees the sins in the sky and swears vengeance against Aluka, though there is currently no sign to her that she survived. So, Aluka, now Aluka Clockworker, meets with Held, who tells her to collect all the vessels of sin. Aluka agrees because she's immortal now, geez, wonder why, and having a goal should help keep her from being bored.